Hello and welcome to the Sounds of Unrest podcast, coming to you from Somerset's Rockaway Park. Those of you that have the privilege to visit there on market days, which is one Sunday a month, might know that an organisation called Normal Magic are always present to offer support, guidance and well-being advice to anybody that wants to drop in and take advantage of their service. I'll leave them to explain what it is and what they do. Here we are, me, Steve Lake, interviewing Sarah and Tracey from Normal Magic.
Hello.
Hi, Steve.
Hi.
Hello, how flipping lovely to be here.
Yeah, very nice. Yeah.
So, Normal Magic, so we are a personal wellbeing service, mental health service. We also deliver training and consultation to a wide range of whoever's interested. So that's our predominant service, or a mental health service.
Yeah.
And I guess you're right, we're here at Rockaway. We are here most market Sundays, and we offer drop-in mental health care. We can share a little bit about how that came about, if you like. Yeah, did you want to add anything?
I think the story of how Sarah fell upon Rockaway is quite an interesting one, and then how she enticed me to come up here one Sunday.
This is true.
And we were captured
Definitely
by
were.
the place.
We left the NHS about 3 years ago after about 20 years in mental health services, and we left to begin to deliver a service with a difference, because we wanted to do something very different in terms of how we provide and how we access mental health care. The first sort of year that we were embarking on this pretty radical move for us, really, because you're coming out of an NHS system to challenge an NHS system, to then be recommissioned by an NHS system, and so it was a kind of precarious time for us, really, wasn't it? In terms of what do we want to do in terms of altering the way that we access mental health care. So within the first year, what we were very clear about is that what we wanted to deliver was a mental health service that did not have thresholds of need, that did not have referral processes, and that did not have open or closed care. So that was our criteria, wasn't it?
Absolutely.
And then as we'll talk a bit more in a minute about how that's evolved, but within that first year, a friend of mine had told me about Rockaway. So I came up to Rockaway just on the way to pick up my children, actually, from the airport, and managed to have a good hour or so with Mark, having a cup of coffee and solving the world, as one normally does up here with Rockaway.
Exactly.
And of course started to talk about what we're developing as a mental health service, and Mark was immediately, we would very much welcome something like that here. What that looks like is that we wanted to develop a walk-in. You just come in and ask for help, talk about something that you might be preoccupied with, or something that you want to make change with. No appointment. We definitely, Mark was very clear that we would probably benefit from it being an anonymous service. Yeah. Certainly free, of course, and off-grid. So that's what we've developed, and we've been here 2 years now.
We have.
And you get quite a lot of take-up?
So we're here market Sundays, every market Sunday. Certainly there's lots of people who live here, and of course there's lots of people that visit here. And we sit up in what's called the balcony of the School of Curiosity up here at Rockaway. We try and encourage sort of families with children and young people to kind of just come and get involved in activities that we're doing that talks about mentally healthy living from that perspective. And then within that, we end up having conversations about what people might be struggling with. Some people will come and say, can I have some time? And one of us will go and find a private space and we'll have some quiet time. Other times it's kind of an open space to just explore mentally healthy living, and you were going to
I was going to say much more activity based. So often we get children and families. Some of the activities are very much lent towards young people and parents, but we also have a range of adults who will come and meet us, find out what we do, and then maybe consider if they want to have a check-in, get some advice, those sorts of things as well. Absolutely.
You both worked in the NHS, did you, before you did this? And what was your role there?
So I spent 20 years in the child and adolescent mental health services, left in 2021. Prior to leaving, I was responsible for various kind of strands of work, including all referrals into CAMHS.
You're obviously like mental health professionals. Are you psychologists, psychiatrists, mental health nurses?
So we're both mental health nurses, Steve. So we're both registered nurses.
Right.
And my background also is in child and adolescent mental health services, where Sarah and I met each other, in fact. I'm a bit longer in the two, so I've done about 40 years in service in the NHS, again, across the whole range of services with young people and adults, right across the range.
Would it be fair to say that you were disillusioned with the NHS and you wanted to set up some alternative?
Definitely. Our experience of managing what is called the front door of CAMHS, so all the referrals will come in. CAMHS is commissioned with a very specific threshold. Right?
What is CAMHS?
Sorry, CAMHS is the Child and Adolescent Mental Health Service.
Okay, yeah.
So the Child and Adolescent Mental Health Service, what we know as CAMHS, is commissioned with a very tight threshold of symptoms and impact of symptoms. So if you don't meet that threshold, you're not accepted into that service. Okay, so that's okay. Full love and peace to those services. They're commissioned in that way.
Yeah.
But there isn't anything else outside. So there isn't anything as a statutory organisation to help us just access mental health care as and when we need it. It's almost like we have to fit a list of symptoms and severity of symptoms and the impact before we can get help, both in children, young people and adults. So what we wanted to do was challenge that as a system, and that's what we're doing.
What you do, how is that different?
We're now recommissioned by the NHS. So primary care networks are a sort of a group of GP practices. So what we had wanted was to bring a kind of equity between how we access physical healthcare. So presumably you may be registered with a GP.
Yeah.
You can go as many times as you like. There isn't a threshold, so you don't have to have a particular list of symptoms. You can go with anything you like. You can go with a worry about something, or my leg's actually dropping off. There's no threshold, and they don't open or close your care. So we wanted to replicate that for mental health, and we believe that should be replicated. So we were very fortunate enough to be probably taken a risk on by quite a few GP surgeries down in Devon and East Cornwall over the past 2 years. So now we deliver direct in those surgeries. So as a parent or a carer or a young person, they can ring up the surgery, say I'm worried about my mental health, and book directly in with us. We don't need to know why, don't want a professional referral, we don't take professional referrals, and we don't open close. You come as many times as you want. In the same way you access help from your doctor.
When you first started approaching GPs, how did they respond to you? Did they see it as valuable, or did they see you as a couple of fly-by-nights?
I know, I think that first year was really scary, because of course this is an idea. It's an idea off the back of what's known as a single session therapy model, which is a global evidence-based model of mental health care, which means that for most people we actually only want one session. We just want to check out our symptoms, check out our worries, check out what can I do to make this better, and then go off on your merry way and implement that if you want to. So I think the catch for the GPs was they already run a single session model. So you go in about the ailment that you want to talk about. They don't ask you about your finances and your mother's history or your dog's world. They just want to know about what you want to go in about. So that model is already familiar to them. And our challenge was, why are we not bringing a single session therapy model into mainstream statutory services to help with this kind of demand for better mental health care?
Yeah, and if we also liken that to most of our GP surgeries now have got extended roles with other professionals. So again, you will have a single session with a physiotherapist. You can book that. You might go and see the nurse in the surgery for some wound management. So they will bring in other professionals for specific single session health treatments that you can access through your GP surgery. So they've already begun to experiment and use that model.
Our experience of accessing mental health care is, of course, at a level where people's well-being has been quite impacted on. What we're saying is we should be able to access that early conversation easily. It should be okay to come in and say, I don't know what is going on, but the past 3 weeks I've been feeling anxious and my sleep's upside down and I need to steady myself. What's happening for me?
Yeah.
Does that make sense? Not kind of wait to get to a level where I'm now off of work, I'm, completely in an emotionally abusive relationship with myself and a functional, everything about my function is falling down the pan. We shouldn't wait to get to that level. We should be able to come in right here and now and say, okay, something's not right.
So what is your experience of the uptake of your appointments at the GP surgeries?
My experience is that people are much more help seeking than they were earlier on in my career, certainly at an earlier stage, because probably about 30 years ago I was involved in an NHS pilot, in fact, in GP surgeries down in Devon. It took a very long time to ease people into accessing the service, whereas my experience offering this locally in GP surgeries in Devon is as soon as our appointments are made available, they're filled up by help-seeking families who would like to use them. So there's definitely a wish to engage with them now in a probably different sort of way.
I think there's also something about the way that our professional systems have set themselves up. I think there's, and this is probably quite contentious for some potentially, but our professional systems I think have been set up so that it's professionals versus community or versus family. And those thresholds to get help are very high, which can leave us feeling in a place of learned helplessness. We're not very good at asking for help. We're British. We're not very good at saying, it's all fallen down over here.
Keep calm and carry on.
And sometimes that's amazing, isn't it? Yes, do you know what? Right here, right now, I need to keep calm and carry on. However, what if I can't?
Yeah.
What if I need some help to kind of go, do you know what? I need to calm my brain down in order to carry on. But no, I can't. You have to not be able to carry on in order to get a service. So I think by having a professional system that we can't get help from until we are quite, unwell or falling over, that's the bit that has to change, I think. So I think we've also got better at talking about mental health, at naming our emotions, at being able to notice when we're feeling down or feeling anxious or feeling impacted on, and it is beginning to be okay to say it.
Yeah.
However, where are we going for help? Because there is nowhere. So, if we are all suddenly alert to a new symptom, a physical symptom, we'd all be alert to it and we'd be going to our doctor and saying, hey, that thing that you told me to look out for is happening.
Yeah.
What do I do? Whereas now we are all we're all able to be more alert to noticing when our mental health is off, but we've got nowhere to go for it.
So are other people doing what you're doing?
Globally, yes. So globally, a single session therapy model is an evidence-based intervention. It's well known to be a helpful kind of way of asking for help. In fact, the national statistics say that most people only want one session. So globally, yes. Here is a mandatory provision of NHS care? No, it's not. So certainly we're across parts of Devon and East Cornwall as a commission service through the primary care network, so the GP surgeries. And they are, I guess, taking it into their own hands about creating the system change that they know their communities need.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So you need a proactive GP system who notices that there's a need that their current practice can't meet. And I think we've been really lucky to meet some amazing people who are trying to make literally the world a better place and have commissioned us in, and it's been stunning. We've sustained a sort of 2 to 4 week wait for appointments. I think you can see us before you can see your GP. We've just written a chapter in a book, an international book called Single Session Symposium. It's edited by Flavio Canistra and Michael Hoyt, who are big global names in single session therapy, and they invited us to write a chapter about Devon system change. So that comes out on the 30th of December.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah, I know, very excited about that. So it's a book with lots of different people who are pioneering this sort of work across the globe. So yes, there are lots of people across the globe definitely pioneering this way of working. Is it currently part of a mandatory healthcare system here in the UK? No. That is definitely our challenge to the system and system change.
You obviously work with GPs that are very supportive and believe in what you're doing. Do you also come across more kind of negative reactions where people don't want you getting in on their patch?
So I think there are definitely people who might question the efficacy, I suppose, if you like, of single session therapy, especially, the kind of medical world, so to speak, that suggests that actually you need 6 sessions of this or 20 sessions of that or 80 sessions of this. I think we have to start listening to ourselves and help seekers. So if you're coming to me and you're saying, I've got enough capacity and energy to have one conversation and I want to take as much as I can from you in order to think about what I can do to make change or an improvement, then why would we not make the most of that interaction? That interaction is all we've got. And most mental health services, they're not mandatory in going back to. So actually each session is it counts, because it could be the last one that this person engages in. So so I think there's definitely going to be people who have different views, but that's okay, because this isn't about one size fits all, right? This is about, it's exactly about that. And in fact, in the 2 years that we've been delivering this in GP surgeries, I mean, between all of us as a team, there's probably about seven of us now. I think between us all, we're qualified in delivering all sorts of things. So from CBT, family therapy, EMDR, talking therapies coming out of our ears. There's a whole gamut of evidence-based interventions. Over 70% are single session access, with people returning like you would your GP for top-ups. I think because we're in quite small communities as well, what we particularly like is that people come in because we've seen their neighbour or their friend or their cousin. So that kind of reputation on the ground is what's bringing people to us, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So yes, you asked just now about whether there was something that we do different in our delivery now than what we might have done in our history.
Yeah.
I think for us what's really important is that you as a help seeker leads the way. So we no longer have a clipboard of 40 questions that we have got to ask you in order to make a decision about what we think is going to work for you.
Yeah.
It's not up to us. Does that make sense? So
Yeah,
I have a lot of information, a lot of knowledge, a lot of experience, and I can impart that to you for you to make a decision about how that, might work with the changes that you want to make. And we definitely have people who will want more than one session. So I think it's about 15-20% that will have longer term access, but that's still done under the same sort of model.
Do you have any way of measuring the success of what you do?
Notoriously, as human beings, we appear to be pretty rubbish at filling out feedback, right? So everybody is invited to complete a questionnaire at the end of their time with us. We do get some pretty good numbers feeding back. I'd like it to be 100% feedback to give us a proper, robust view, but the majority is consistent in that the appointments are satisfactory, that they've got enough information to make some change, they know how to come back. I felt empowered, that they'd been listened to, that they decided their next steps. And those are the important bits for us. The bit that brought us to Rockaway, because we're a community interest company as well.
Yeah.
So the kind of masters of single session therapy across the world, there's a guy called Monty Babel who I just totally love, from Texas, and they run outreach to sort of remote communities in that area of the world. They don't take referrals, it's all drop-in, it's all anonymous, and that's what we wanted to replicate here for Rockaway, especially having had that conversation with Mark in the beginning. So how do we do more of that? How do we do more of being an available single session drop-in support for our communities? We have walk-in services, don't we? We have walk-in medical services.
Absolutely.
Let's do it for mental health. Why can we not do that? And our experience here tells us that can be done.
Are there other places you go where you do drop-ins?
We have a Respect Festival actually in Exeter every year, run by the community. We have a stand there for a couple of days and we'll be there again next year. So we just do a very similar thing to what we do here at Rockaway. So we're always looking for those opportunities, and on some occasions as well, working with our GP colleagues and other services locally, we have also piloted some drop-ins around family hubs as well, which are well used around the single sessions as well. And then just really seeking opportunities, isn't it?
Yeah, I think it would be amazing to have a walk-in single session response. I think that would be the ultimate system change, but for now, The first step of system change, I think, is having mental health care directly accessible in your GP surgery. No threshold, no referral, no open or close. Let's just start, levelling up this access to healthcare. And, one of our unfortunate leading causes of death is suicide. So, let's get this addressed then. If we are wanting people to help themselves and have access to some support and learn to mentally, healthily live in a different way. Live mentally healthily, that way around. How do we create a space for people to learn how to do that? Because we're not taught this stuff at school. We're not taught how to build our resilience, how to recover from stresses and strains and all those things. I know that life helps us sometimes manage and find our own way, but sometimes we need a bit of an extra. And I don't believe we always need months and months of therapy. Sometimes that little bit extra is just a single appointment. And it's really interesting, isn't it? Because we are the people that create the stigma. So we are the people. There is nobody else out there saying this is what the stigma is or isn't. We are it. So, how do we show up for ourselves and each other? So if I'm showing up to somebody showing an emotional vulnerability in a way that is suppressing them or ridiculing them, I'm creating the stigma. Does that make sense? So I think that is within our gift, isn't it, in terms of our cultural shift, is how do we show up for ourselves and each other, and it's okay to not be okay.
How do people find out more about you?
We're nurses, right? We're not promoters or marketers.
We're doers.
So
we spend most of our time doing and less marketing.
We do, but we do have a website which has a contact us page there. So we're in talks with lots of GP surgeries, not just in Devon and East Cornwall, and of course we're here on a market Sunday. So come on in. We're up at the balcony.
So those of you who are in the Bristol, Bath, Somerset area want to pop along, come and see us.
And it's as a place to come and look after your mental health, this is it, right? It's a look at it. You just obviously you can't see this, listeners, but I'm looking out the window at a kind of feast of creative inspiration, and it's just food for well-being, I think, as well as delicious food being sold here. So it's a good mentally healthy day.
It's certainly, I certainly feel a bit healthier mentally knowing that places like this exist and other people with similar visions.
What we are drawn to here at Rockaway as well, obviously Mark giving us an opportunity to come and do something different here with and do the single session drop-ins, but for us, communities make communities, right? And I don't think as a culture, I think we've moved away from looking after each other within our community. There are some amazing community spirits going on, and lots of people are very, very excellent at looking after each other. But what we notice here at Rockaway is what I feel like they're growing here is a community. That makes sense, and the community looks after the community. So how do we show up for ourselves and this community? And that's the bit that makes us go, I think we want to be here.
Okay, big thank you to Sarah and Tracey for telling us about Normal Magic. It was an absolute joy talking to them. I might well pop in for a session myself because we all need a bit of help and support in these troubled times. Come back to Sounds of Unrest podcast if you want to hear more interesting interviews from the world of the world. See you again. Bye.